So, this one was a long time coming, huh? Really surprised that it took me this long to cover more Kingdom Hearts titles after the DS games. I think a whole lot of just no Kingdom Hearts 4 news kind of started to burn me out a little bit and just push me away. But ever since Kingdom Hearts got released on Steam and I've been playing through them again, I've gotten the motivation to make these videos more. So it's time we talked about the next handheld in the Kingdom Hearts library, the PSP prequel story, Birth by Sleep. Now, Birth by Sleep is easily my absolute favorite of the handheld titles, next to Chain of Memories, as I think it does a lot of things right, but I also think it does some stuff very wrong. It's also a lot more different than the other Kingdom Hearts titles, as it's 3 stories all at once, each with different playstyles and each with their own pros and cons. So in order to fully explore these games up and down, I've decided I'm going to break down each of the stories one by one for a change, and explain what I think worked and what I think didn't. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, out of all 3 storylines in this game, I'd have to say that my absolute favorite of them all is easily the Ventus story. Not only do I think Ventus is the most fun to play as he is the most balanced in terms of gameplay, along with being the fastest character of the trio, but he was also the most engaging story-wise. So the story goes that Ventus is a kid with amnesia that is in training on the Land of Departure in the hopes to one day become a Keyblade Master, alongside his friends and older sibling figures, Terra and Aqua. However, unlike the older 2 disciples, who have proven themselves ready to take the Mark of Mastery, Ventus is still in training, so he's mainly cheering them on from the sidelines. Seems like a great and supportive group of friends. What could possibly go wrong? Oh yeah, that's why. So after some shenanigans with the Mark of Mastery exam, they all break off to do their own thing. And while Ventus is just hanging out in his room, just enjoying his life, swinging his toy Keyblade around, he is confronted by the single best addition this game ever gave us. And that is the character Vanitas. He has an incredible design attached to him, an interesting backstory, and best of all, is such an absolute asshole that he joins the esteemed ranks of top-tier haters alongside Lark, Scene, and Santa Claus. Still cannot believe that dude left Sora on the naughty list for 7 years just because he said he didn't believe in him. That is a next level of petty I hope to achieve one of these days. Anyways, Vanitas shit-talks him and tells him how Terra's going to leave him behind. This causes Ventus to run outside and see Terra as he's just about to leave. And once Terra takes off, Ventus goes after him to find out what the fuck is going on. And then begins Ventus' journey across the many Disney worlds. Goddamn, where there's some pretty ass levels here. The fact the game looked this good on a fucking handheld console is just downright insane to me. The aesthetics of each level were amazing. However, my 3 favorite areas were Disney Town for how vibrant and fun it looked, plus the goofy minigames you get to play. Getting to explore the original Radiant Garden before it became Hollow Bastion was really cool. And Keyblade Graveyard had this cold, desolate somberness that feels unlike any Kingdom Hearts levels before it. Which also fits with Birth by Sleep's tone, which is something I should probably point out by now. Birth by Sleep is a very depressing game. Like, a core part of Birth by Sleep's identity is watching these broad-eyed and happy kids just get completely broken down by the fucking world around them. The shit they go through is on the level of things Roxas went through in 358s, where the most interesting aspect of the story is watching the mental teardown of the trio. That may be because I'm a sadist that I like that so much, but you know what? It does culminate in an absolutely soul-crushing and fantastic finale. However, that doesn't mean the entire game is just one big misery fest, as there are several moments throughout the 3 runs that are not only feel good, and also set up future events of the series. For Ventus, one of the best moments is when you get to meet Lee and Isa, the original Somebody versions of Axel and Sayax, where he forms a genuine friendship with the 2 of them, along with Ventus rekindling his belief that the 3 Keyblade-wielding friends can rekindle their bond one day. I honestly just love the Ventus story. Not only does it feel most in line with Kingdom Hearts writing, but the development he goes through as he realizes the world is just a fraction of a bigger picture going on behind the scenes is some of the most fascinating stuff they've ever tackled in a series. But of course, all good things come to an end, and that rings incredibly loudly for Ventus once he reaches Yensid's tower and learns from him that Mickey has fallen in battle and needs some help. So Ven offers to go off to where he is because that's where they first met. So I gotta say this, I love the fact that we get to meet Mickey while he was still an apprentice for Yen Sid. I like that he's really impulsive and just basically still a magic world traveling shard he can't control. It's fun to see a more inexperienced version of the king instead of the other badass version we had gotten to him. I still adore the badass version, it's still my favorite version of Mickey, but it is fun to see him more impulsive and kind of an idiot. Anyways, Ventus shows up, it's revealed to be a trap set up by Xehanort, and it's here that we get probably what might be the single biggest bomb drop in Kingdom Hearts, and the main reason why Ventus was kept at the Land of Departure. It's more of a throwaway moment in Radiant Garden's world during Ventus' story that Master Ericus ordered Aqua to bring Ventus back home. It's something that's kind of a throwaway line as you assume Ericus just doesn't think Ventus is ready. But the more you think about it, the more that notion starts feeling off. Outside of his first fight with Vanitas, Ven has shown himself to be rather capable in combat, and he's really just very good at solving issues. So, is he just an overprotective old man who doesn't want his dear student to be hurt? Well, not exactly. It's actually a lot darker than that. The truth is that Ventus is actually a super weapon known as the Keyblade, a special type of Keyblade that, when crafted, will allow the wielder to bring about an event known as the Keyblade War. But the only way to make it happen is to have Ventus and Vanitas fight each other. And in order to prevent that from happening, Ericus kept Ventus at the land of departure and never let him leave to see other worlds. Long story short, he was basically a prisoner in his own home. He is then sent back to his home, where he proceeds to confront his master about it, and his master, in his infinite wisdom, comes up with a, very logical and sane solution.
I had the chance to stop him and couldn't do it. But I will not fail again.
Now that's how I solve all my problems when I'm asked a grand total of 3 questions. So yeah, he tries to execute Ven so Xehanort can't complete his plan. Terra intervenes to protect Ven and sends him to Destiny Island, where he meets Vanitas again, who he politely, so eloquently tells to fuck off, and says that he no longer wants any part in this in Xehanort's plan. Vanitas then reveals to Ventus that the two of them were once the same person, but Xehanort removed the darkness from Ven's heart to create him. He tells Ventus to meet him at the Keyblade Graveyard. Ven goes there, reunites with his friends, and here you finally just see how beaten down Ventus and everyone has become. I imagine it was a miserable game for a reason after all. After their heart-wrenching chat, with it ending with Ventus literally saying if things go bad, you gotta execute him, the battle begins. Where they, okay, I'm gonna be real, they get their asses beat. Like, holy shit, what an ass kicking. Ventus fights Vanitas one final time, and we are treated to another crazy reveal about the new enemies we face in Birth by Sleep, known as the Unversed. See, the Unversed are these weird monsters that we do battle with in Birth by Sleep instead of Heartless or Nobodies, and I loved them. They had these interesting designs that made them probably my second favorite enemies to fight, right behind the Nobodies. But unlike the Heartless or Nobodies, we're never really told where these things come from, and you only learn the truth when it's revealed at the end of Ventus' story that they were actually created from Vanitas, and were utilized as opponents to make Ventus stronger. They then fuse together in a last act of defiance. Ventus decides to rebel against Vanitas, even if it means losing himself forever, dropping that raw as fuck line that friends are his power. And honestly, did it even cooler and better than Sora did, but that's just me. Anyways, they fight, Ventus wins, and his story ends. Sounds perfect, right? No. Look, I love the Ventus story, but it has its issues. And they pretty much all boil down to how Vanitas was handled. I adore him, don't get me wrong. He's easily the best part of Birth by Sleep. But he comes with a couple complaints. For one, despite him basically being Ven's nemesis, they shockingly don't interact all that much. I'm certain Aqua interacts with him more than Ven does. At least she fights him more. And that's just really weird to me. Why not have them interact more? Give Ventus maybe one more battle with him before the Keyblade Graveyard. Have them 1v1 on Destiny Island just to give a few more moments with Ven. Second was his final boss fight. I don't know whose bright idea it was to have the finale be this weird button mash quick time event thing, but they needed to get off the grill because they weren't cooking shit. Other than that, I don't really have anything else to say about Ventus' story. It's pretty much the most put together out of the 3 of them. So now, let's move on to Aqua. So, Aqua. Fan favorite character. Amazing design, yeah. Oh god, this is going to be the most awkward part of this video, isn't it? I need to be real here, right out of the gate. Out of all 3 of these stories, Aqua is without a doubt my least favorite to play through. No, it's not bad, of course. It's far from bad. It's just not my favorite in terms of a narrative. Like, comparing it to Ventus and Terra's stories, and just how much happens in those, and then you look at hers, and it just, it's a little underwhelming in comparison. But just because I think it's one of the weakest of the 3, that doesn't mean there aren't things I don't like about her playthrough. In fact, one of my favorite aspects of her story is how differently she plays from Ventus. Which, I haven't talked about the gameplay yet, have I? Alright, time to do that. If I were to describe the gameplay of Birth by Sleep, I'd say it's a mix of old and new. A combat style reminiscent of the first Kingdom Hearts game, but with changes to the formula, tuned up with later mechanics to give a better feel, like the introduction of the shot lock mechanic, where you can essentially unload magical clips into an enemy for free damage, that work well when you're fighting mobs among burst, but are at their best when in one-on-one bosses. If utilized right, they can help you drain large portions of HP in one go, but if you get hit before you can release the shot, you're kinda screwed. Adding to the gameplay is the return of the command deck from Recoded, and it's still as fun and fluid as ever. However, it's been enhanced with the option to fuse together abilities to create newer, more powerful ones, which can also be mixed in with special materials that grant your characters passive buffs. Things like increased resistance to elemental attacks, more HP, and extra combo strikes. Plus some insanely broken extra kills like EXP Walker, which gives you EXP just for walking around. I love this addition. I can't tell you how long I spent just mixing and matching together different abilities so I could discover something brand new. There's also the D-Link system, where you can create a sort of pseudo-bond fusion with a character you have met on your journey to grant you special skills and even unique finish commands. You can even unlock new abilities the more you utilize the D-Link system, like Second Chance or Double EXP. There's a couple more things in regards to combat, but I'm going to save them for a bit later. Just kidding, that's all there is. So let's get into Aqua's story next. So what is Aqua's story about? Well, it kicks off with Aqua being the victor of the Mark of Mastery exam over Terra and becoming the next Keyblade Master. She is then privy to certain knowledge. But before it can go further, they learn that Ventus and Terra have both left. Ericus then tasks Aqua with bringing Ventus home and keeping an eye on Terra. And well, that's pretty much it. Yeah, when I said before that Aqua's story doesn't have much going on, I literally meant it. Again, her fight and story are just far from horrible. There are some fun moments like her meeting the child versions of not only Kairi, Sora, and Riku. Her endgame parts of her story like teaming up with Mickey and channeling her friend's power to save Ventus from being possessed by Vanitas. There's just a lot of genuinely great moments. But the more you go through it, you also notice one major aspect is missing from these stories. And that is that Aqua has no major antagonist of her own to challenge her. The most she really gets is Vanitas showing up a few times to fuck with her. He doesn't even really have a reason to continuously keep showing up. He's just there to be a dick. So it's really weird and sticks out in comparison to whenever he would show up and bother Ventus. It really sticks out more and more as you realize there's no opposing force for her to bounce off of. This is honestly one of the moments where I really wish that they utilized Braig in her story more. Not only would it have helped to give her an antagonist to deal with, especially with what we know about the guy now, but Braig was easily one of the most entertaining parts of the game. So it's a shame that he didn't get to see more of him. And like I stated before, his reveal as Lushu later on in the games would have made him a fantastic foil to Aqua. Just feels like a missed opportunity not to give Aqua something more instead of just piggybacking off of Ventus and Terra's stories. She does get a bit more once you get the special episode at the end of the game, but yeah, she's easily the most underutilized character. That pretty much wraps up her story. So now let's get on to... Okay, so here we are. We've covered Ven. We just finished with Aqua. It's time we talked about good old Terra, the one whose story is probably the most joked about of the three, considering it's treated as being a copy and paste version of the famous Star Wars movie Revenge of the Sith. And honestly, while I don't exactly agree, I can't help but admit I can see the similarities. Terra doesn't get the recognition he believes he deserves due to unfair fear, gets manipulated by an old man who wants to use him to further his own goals, tries to stay on the side of good, grapples with his darkness, kills his own master, even saying, "What have I done?" Like Anakin did when he ended up killing Mace. Okay, I've made my point here. So yeah, lots of parallels. So what did I think of it? Well, honestly, while I think it does share some one-to-one ideas, sure, it is definitely much more than that, and actually does a great job at really exploring the troubles Terra goes through as he deals with his darkness. See, what makes Terra's journey so interesting to me is that unlike someone like Riku, who we just see gradually accept his own darkness, Terra constantly struggles with it. He keeps telling himself that darkness is bad. He is someone who will always fight for the light. He'll be the goodest boy in the entire world. But despite all of these moments of preaching this, the darkness keeps winning over, and he keeps suffering for it. He lost the Mark of Mastery due to it. He lost the trust of Aqua due to it. It's clear he has a problem with it, and unfortunately, he can't turn to anyone he cares for because they don't have any sort of way to help him. Ven is too young and inexperienced about the world. Aqua just became a master and is still learning, and also has the downside of only knowing about the bad stuff he's done ever since he's left. And Ericus fears the darkness so much he nearly executes Ventus over the fact he learned a truth. So without anyone to trust or guide him, he turns to Xehanort, who is the only one who's telling him he doesn't have to be afraid, that he can help him control the darkness in him, that he sees the incredible potential that Ericus was too scared to unearth. It really is sad when you think about it, as you have to watch Terra just get manipulated by the one person he thought he could genuinely trust while he was at his lowest, and after he was just basically left out to dry by everyone. This all comes ahead in the final hours of his story, where he tells Terra that Ericus is trying to kill Ven. When he jumps in to save the day, utilizing the darkness in the process, he ends up defeating his master and realizing how far he has fallen. And right before he can mend things with Argus and make him see the error of his ways, Xehanort swoops in and just fucking executes him in front of his eyes. And from there, Terra realizes he was being gypped, heads to Keyblade Graveyard to join in and face Xehanort. But instead of, saving the day, as you do, his story ends with Xehanort taking his body, with Terra's will being contained to his armor, with his spirit and final bits of consciousness fighting Xehanort constantly, with the only thing left being that he's passed on the Keyblade to Riku, setting up the snow-haired boy's future. And that's how his story ends. I'd argue it's probably the bleakest in the entire game, maybe second only to Aqua, who is in the secret episode, gets trapped in the realm of darkness, stopping Terranort from executing his plan. And I personally love the narrative. So what is the problem with Terra's route then? Well, they can be summed up to one thing: the gameplay. Yeah, Terra's gameplay is easily the worst of the three. Ventus was focused on speed, Aqua was magic, and Terra is all about power. Sounds like my kind of game. After all, I love strength builds in a lot of games I play. But Terra's gameplay is held back by Terra feeling a lot more sluggish in comparison, which makes his entire playthrough a slog to get through. Which honestly sucks, because Terra has some of the best boss fights in the entire game, the Terranort fight and Master Ericus battle being some key moments. But they are both made way more difficult to deal with just due to how slow Terra plays. It will drive you nuts as you try to move out of the way and feel like you will take unfair damage due to the character just feeling like he isn't fast enough. His sluggish speed also makes the entire playthrough feel about 20% longer than it actually is. If you haven't played him yet, just be prepared to feel like you're moving with weighted training clothes from Dragon Ball on. That's the only major gripe I have with Terra. There is one more minor issue with it, and that's how little Terra actually interacts with the main Disney cast. Yeah, he interacts with people from Disney World, sure, one interaction leading to the most famous meme from this game.
Kill him. Kill him now.
But Terra sadly never really interacts with Donald, Goofy, or even Mickey. Hell, I don't even think he runs into Mickey like once. It's not a huge problem, as the story does work a lot better being more alone, but it would have been kind of nice to see how Terra and Mickey would interact at least a few times. Maybe Mickey's magic Disney powers could have saved Terra from the darkness, who knows. What I do know is that at the end of the Terra section. So let's get to the final part of this video. Birth by Sleep is a title that, while I love a lot, does have some very noticeable issues. For everything I think it does great, there's always just something I can point out and scold it for that could have just been a lot better. That is why my final rating for this game is a very good 8 out of 10. And with that, we have finally completed another Kingdom Hearts review. Again, I am so sorry this took so long. I really gotta get back into this, but it was really hard without some motivation. And with Steam Kingdom Hearts out now, I am now much more motivated to work on these again. So stay tuned for more. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked what you saw here, do me a favor and like and sub down below. Hit the bell for notifications. I realize I never really tell people to do that, but do that please. And leave a comment if you want to chat or help me in the algorithm. Have a good night, and I'll see you next time for more RPG content.